You know, when I was in ABU, in my second year, you know, we wanted to raise money for the Art Students Association. So my good friend, Delejere, and I just rubbed minds and said, you know, we can raise money. And we thought about drawing. So we created what we called drawing while you wait. So you just get a chair, sit down, you know, and we do your portraits. 30, 40 minutes, and you give us some money. Of course, which goes to the association's purse. But in doing that drawing, we didn't really realize that we were actually also developing the skill. But we were making money for the association, you know, just draw and draw, you know, and drawing while you wait. When I was graduating, Nigeria was good then. Before we left the university, the Civil Service Commission was on campus. And we were just told, the Civil Service Commission is around to interview you people for employment. So tomorrow morning, you should be ready. I think they say it's 9 o'clock. They told us the venue was fine. So we had to look for our monkey suits wherever they were, you know, dust it up, you know. And my encounter was quite illuminating, because the chairman of that panel was somebody who knew me. I recognized him, but I just said, okay. And the man looked at me and was asking me questions about my father, about my sister, about my brother, about my mother, and the other panelists were like, why are we? So to bust my sail, one of them just said, okay, young man, have this sheet of paper. Here is a biro. Can you do my portrait? Everybody was quiet. He wanted to just deflate, you know, that air of arrogance, you know. But he went to the wrong person. So portrait where you wait now for Oga, you know, and 10, 15 minutes, I pushed it to him. The next thing I heard was that it's my turn. So paper and pencil. The chairman had to come in that he's not here for that, you know. But they were looking at it. How did you? I said, it's God's gift. And I've been here for 4 years. So that's the outcome. And when I get out there, I'm going to pursue that.
Well, growing up, my father and my grandfather were both collectors. So was my mother to a certain extent. So I always grew up with artwork around us in our homes. And my eye was trained from that. Well, the workshop came about during a conversation that I had with OLAKU. We were talking about the importance of draftsmanship. You know, OLAKU went to Yaba Tech, and we were saying how it's important that your technical ability as an artist isn't compromised by your artistic flair or creativity. And we were saying how drawings are very important. They don't command the same as, you know, oil on canvas and things like that. But we felt that drawings have a significant role to play in any collection, and that any serious artist ought to also be a good draftsman.
With this concern, we said, okay, what can we do? One of the things that we could do, apart from talking about it, was let's see if we can organize a workshop whose end product, taken to the public, would help bring some of these concerns to the public space, and who best to do it but guys who had that natural capacity, who had been tested and proven to have the capability to bring this project to life. And I helped to source the other guys.
In 1979, I think that was the year I entered school. Auchi Polytechnic was a new school. It was a baby school. And we were taught many things, and we had a teacher, Mr. ADEJUMO, a doctor now. He's retired, who was very good. He had done art in ABU. He got the first class and went abroad to do a master's degree. In fact, he did 2 master's degrees. So ADEJUMO was the one teaching us. ADEJUMO taught us painting, and it was very liberal. You could work with any medium of your choice. Then watercolor was not a popular medium in Nigeria. So there was, in our final year, ADEJUMO asked us to put in for a painting competition. But of course, colors were not expensive then, but I didn't have money to buy colors, oil colors. So I used watercolor. I was just in my youth service when I bought a newspaper and saw the only watercolor entry wins first prize. That was in the National Daily. Auchi Poly shines in painting competition and everything. So I was the only one that put in watercolor, and it was the first prize.
I think all of us have found out whenever there's something happening in the scene or on the scene, our names will just show up. Everybody goes, when I'm painting here, I'm not painting thinking of what any other person is painting in Nigeria. I'm not bothered really. But I'm always saying to myself, I had lecturers who taught me. I want them to be proud of me. I want them to be happy that they spend their time teaching that person. So over the years, I hear my former lecturers call me, tell me, well done, you're doing your hair. If your former lecturer calls and says, man, you are the masters of the craft today. You're like, excuse me, sir, which craft, So I tell my own kids that I'm not painting so I'm a painter. I'm painting so that my great-grandchildren will sit down somewhere and say, wow, that's my great-grandfather's work. And for me, that's actually the one that bulbs, that wakes up the light on my inside.
Ben was one of a kind. The first time I came across Ben, well, not even across him, I came across his work, it was 1980-something. I saw his work at a place, and I was wondering, who the heck is this fellow? His works were brilliant and had so much energy. It took me another 2 years to find out who he was. And we became friends. Ben has a language of his own. It's the pencil. When Ben draws, you don't need to look for signature. Everybody knows Ben's work. He had an ability to tell stories with his drawing. And he had a way of interpreting human figure that was completely different from every other person. It was a mixture of natural intelligence, school intelligence, and street smart. So Ben, and then he was extremely humble. He just wanted to do what he wanted to do. And he minded his business. But in terms of creative energy, just I should choose a master draftsman in this country, I'll choose Ben first.
My creative process always starts with drawing. I'm drawing not because the drawing I'm doing is what I want to paint. It is just to awaken my intuitive senses. The artist exists in another space. Now, sometimes the picture that I see
it's difficult for me to download if I don't draw. So drawing helps me to unwrap the covering. It's like you are sharpening your tool. Then suddenly I'll just enter that realm where the thoughts exist in black and white. So I can see the details for me to download on canvas. So that's why my creative process starts with drawing. And drawing is not essentially just black and white. I could be drawing with pastel, but I will always start with charcoal because it's easier for me to manipulate, rub off if I'm not getting at what I should.
In your early days, when you were learning how to write, they'll give you an exercise book where you trace the letters of alphabet. You trace them, and after a while, you develop to know the caps and the lower cases. After a while, you write like that. Then later, you have your own mannerism, the way you write your letter A, that people will now see the handwriting and say, is this guy that wrote this thing? And this is the way he writes. That's how art is. You start by imitating. After imitation, your style begins.
Drawing is the foundation of every form of visual art. So far as you have an idea, you need to first of all register the idea out as a sketch, no matter what it is. Whether in architecture, in engineering, which is an offshoot of the visual arts, it's not really the art, it's a form of science. But every form of visual art, you need your preparatory down for whatever it is you want to do. And drawing is the basic, the very, very basic that you must understand before you become any kind of artist. Now, you must remember that before our own generation, there were no professional artists. You had artists who were either teachers in school or worked in advertising agencies or did something else, but they were not full professional artists. So we were the first set of professional artists that they had. So we wanted to come together as top draftsmen and create a memory of working on a single subject, and we chose a woman. When we had that thing, we wanted to also document the importance of figurative drawing as a critical part of the visual process for the painters, especially. We want to also highlight the fact that we were on a course or on a mission to not to make any serious statement other than saying that in visual art, there are processes, there are things you could do that is beyond just painting. A lot of people, if you don't come to the studio, you may not see my drawings, but you see my paintings, although these days a lot of people are beginning to buy drawings. I don't know what has happened. So for the seven of us, we were just privileged, I would say so. We were privileged to be enthusiastic and desirous of doing drawings with whichever media or at any place and at any point in time. We enjoyed ourselves. We were happy it happened. We were enthusiastic about it. And for us, at that time, it was a dream. My works, my own works, have to deal with the sensitivity of the female anatomy. I love women. You see the way I say it, I love women. I have a great respect for women. So I tend to spend time studying women, and I would like to translate what they are like into my work. So I spend a lot of time, my works are not, I'm trying to find the word, because someone expressed it for me properly, says, your works are not erotic. They are actually, the sensuality, but it's not the sensuality that is vulgar. My works are not vulgar. It brings out the sweetness in a woman and presents it in a way that even women are the ones who enjoy my work more than men. So that's what I set out to do, to draw in a way that I'm used to. bring out the sweetness in the woman so that the woman can enjoy herself.
Every artist has a drawing pace. 20 years after, all of our works have grown apart. So if you put us in the same space to draw that same model, we will have so different approach first, then different understanding of the containment.
But these were guys that at that time, even can imagine, take 20 years out of their age today. Yeah, they were still hovering around the realm of the younger generation, but were quite adept at what they were doing. They were some of the most respected draftsmen around, even if they were known more as painters.
Well, to model in front of 7 to 10 other artists, I don't know what the temperaments of the artists are. Sometimes it's a little difficult. So the first rule is that you must show respect for the model. First rule of the studio. Show respect for the model. You must never handle the model, touch the model at any point in time. And you must not address her roughly. By the first set of drawings, she realized that we're not looking at her sexually, we're just actually working. So she became more relaxed. And in between the sessions, she'll wear, I can't remember whose jacket it was or whose shirt, it was a jeans shirt. She'll wear the shirt over her shoulder and she'll walk through the studio to see what we were doing. Because you see, you can't model for too long if you're not a professional model. If you're not a professional model, to stand or sit for an hour is almost impossible. So, she will walk through the studios after maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes of pose, and then she will, and then she found it was more relaxed. By the end of this entire process, she didn't even realize she was not part of us. She was, as far as she was concerned, she was part of the people that were working.
But at that time, I was looking at the figure as a muse. The figures, because we had many models. I was looking at the figure as a muse. I was looking at the figure as a source of inspiration. So there were certain things I looked for in the drawing. You can see my presentation in the drawing exhibition. I draw some were detailed, focused, big, large, part of the figure. Then I also was able to draw some expressive, the full figure.
That's the spontaneity in the drawings, to have that moment in time frozen and put on paper so that the very essence of the model. If you look at the drawings, some started by doing anatomy, drawing the form, how it's seated. Then later they started using the drawings and their material to experiment and deliver a message which they distorted the drawing itself. For me, that was what I was doing with the figure. I wasn't there to exhibit high Renaissance anatomy class. No, I was there to do the drawing and draw inspiration from the model and express myself on paper, deploying either pen and ink or charcoal.
Yeah, it was fellowship for us. If you ask me, I would love maybe a monthly workshop or a bi-monthly workshop. It could be, it's not necessarily, it does not need to be like for a closed 7 or 5 people. It could be with younger artists. What is wrong with us having a drawing workshop in a hotel, for instance? And you are having about how many schools with artists? I mean, I experienced a day's drawing workshop at Trafalgar Square, where you had established artists and you had pupils from primary school coming to see them draw and paint.
I think the agreement with them was that from everything we did, every artist would be able to bring out 5 works that they felt represented them and have an exhibition, a well structured exhibition.
It got a bit cold, when suddenly we didn't hear anything from
the sponsor.
She was unreachable. For so long, initially it started like a joke, and I tried all because I was the main guy who brought in the other guys out. I heard from the rumor mill that she was around. Somebody cited her. Oh. Then also, as God would have it further, we met at one of the openings of the auctions of Art House, organized by Mrs. Kavita Charams. When I saw, I couldn't believe my eyes. But I'd had all kinds of things that, you know, kind of moderated how I approached her. So I had to, it was a very sensitive situation, and at least we socialized first and exchanged contacts so that at least I would be in touch. Later, I brought up the issue of the Have Done project.
They were in a portfolio, and that portfolio was kept in a spare room for a very long time. And then finally one day I came across them and I was just like, oh, great. You know, I've been looking for these.
As the coordinator, then I sent out information to all the guys that were involved. But it's always a good thing when you see your old works. You know, the feeling is really difficult to break down. But it was more positive. It was a joyful reunion with your work, especially having thought of the worst.
You know, as God will have it, it resurfaced again. And here we are, and we were all blown away. I can't even believe. When I saw those drawings, they were looking very fresh. And I must give credit to the lady. The works were kept fresh and complete. It was still like a dream. First, oh, she wants to return the works. But when we got to the meeting, it was like, can we have a show of this? And it was an overwhelming yes, because it is coming at a critical point in the journey of the history of art in Nigeria. I think that some people are deliberately wishing away figurative drawing. For me, that is a sin for development of the visual artist.
When I saw the drawings again, the drawings was like something that was done today. But, you know, that 20 years ago, we're still sane. Many of us were still sane, you know, so we try to draw figure. You know, we're not, I'm sure that if we are to draw today, we will have some kind of insanity displayed.
They're gone for 20 years. They just surfaced, you know. Mrs. Edu and Mrs. Aluko had enough time. And under the circumstances, I didn't think, you know, that I'll never see those works again. But it was a pleasant surprise to know that the works were still there, that they were not lost in transit, they were not lost to unusual circumstances, and they were still in her possession. That was, you know, and they were not just that, they were in pristine condition. The entire folio was, you know, just as it was when she took it away 20 years ago. So yes, I did think I'll never see them anymore. Seeing them, I was really excited. And then I looked at the works that I had done then. I look at my works now. Yeah, the basic person, the basic energy that I had then is still there once I'm matured.
Mydrim Gallery is very excited to be a part of this exhibition. We're so thrilled to be presenting these 35 exceptional drawings, unusual pieces by master artists. We're so thrilled to be showcasing it to the world for the first time. It's a moment in history that cannot be replicated. It's an opportunity for any discerning collector to enrich their collection. Mydrim Gallery and I, Simidele Adesanya, look forward to welcoming you to this exhibition. We look forward to seeing you.